I was talking to a guy the other night who declared, "John, I think I'm becoming a simp to my wife, and it's making me sick to my stomach." I knew exactly what he was talking about. I think a lot of guys lose respect for themselves when they find themselves in that situation. I get it. Well, I think that self-disgust is misplaced. I want to recontextualize this for you, reframe it, if you will, give you a better understanding of what's going on. And the best story that I can use as a metaphor is that of Royce Gracie. For those of you who don't know Royce, he was the first winner of UFC 1. That's the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Royce is an unlikely winner because he was not even the best fighter in his family, much less the best fighter in the world at the beginning of UFC 1. His father, Helio Gracie, is one of the founders and creators of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And Royce was the sparring partner to his two older brothers, two younger brothers, several uncles, and his father. Royce was not an outstanding competitor in this group. But he, from the moment he could stand on his feet, learned about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he was a master. Well, to the rest of the fighters, the greatest fighters the world had to offer at that time, who went to UFC 1 to compete in a no-holds, no-barred, one-on-one combat with no rules, no weight classes. They walked into that ring not knowing anything about what they were facing. Royce weighed 160 pounds. He wore a traditional martial arts gi. He looked silly compared to these other fighters who were all wearing spandex, and they were shirtless, and they were trying to look as mean and tough as they possibly could. And there stood this young guy looking like he's at his first day of karate. And in most of his matches, he never threw a single punch. Not even one. He dropped these guys down to the mat and put them in submissions that they had never seen before. And that, my friends, is a little bit what it's like to be married to a woman. Being a simp just means that she has found your vulnerable spots and you have submitted. When it comes to matters of love, emotions, relationships, women are like Royce Gracie. It's a martial art that they have been practicing since they were young. And we, as men, are not well versed in this martial art at all. We walk into these situations thinking that we're going to have a fair fight, standing on our feet. We're going to go to blows, so to speak, to take the metaphor a little bit deeper. But she has submission techniques. She knows where your vulnerable spots are. She knows how to create the most pain. And so when you find yourself in a position of being a simp to a woman, it's not because you're not a strong man. It's not because you don't have self-respect. It's because you found yourself the victim of a martial artist in the sport of love, emotions, and she found your vulnerabilities and she put pressure on those spots. And as anyone would, doesn't matter how big and strong you are, doesn't matter how big and strong Royce Gracie's competitors were in the ring. I think he fought a guy that was almost twice his size. And he had that guy slapping on the floor, begging for relief within a couple of minutes. Anyway, we all have our vulnerabilities. We all have our joints that don't bend that way. And there's no shame in submitting. There's no shame in finding yourself in that position. This is Life 2.0. Let's talk about it. Becoming a simp starts much sooner than most guys think. Most guys think that through a process during the relationship, they somehow lost their masculine frame and they became a simp. And certainly it can seem that way. But the truth of the matter is it starts much, much earlier than that. In fact, I would argue that the process of becoming a simp probably starts closer to the beginning of the relationship than any other point. The guy I mentioned that I was talking to on the phone the other night, who was expressing disgust in his own descent into being a simp, really his simptitude, if we can use that word, began at the beginning of the relationship. So I asked him to tell me a little bit about this girl that he's married to. So he's been married for like 13 years. And this guy is a successful man in his late 40s, early 50s. High cheekbone, square jaw, lean, strong, healthy, athletic looking guy. Has a job working at a hedge fund, international travel, lives in London, has a home in London. I mean, this guy's doing well financially. He has the kind of life that a lot of guys would really dream of. I mean, he really seems to have a pretty cool life. And of course, he married a fitness model. Who doesn't, right? Yeah, beautiful, beautiful girl. He said, definitely 9 or a 10. Like, she's at the top end of the scale. Just beautiful. And they had a whirlwind romance in a far off country, you know, and there were pressures on their relationship early on that forced them to get married probably before they were ready, before they really knew each other as well as they should. But when I asked him to tell me about her, he started rattling off things about her that would be likened to the way a man would describe his ideal car. Do you know what I mean? Like, he told me about, you know, her figure and how well endowed she was, and how thin her waist was, and what her butt looked like, and how tall she was, you know, and how she looked in a bathing suit. Like, it was as if, he was like, yeah, I got the BMW M5, you know, it's got the V8 engine, it's got the leather seats, yeah, I've got the supercharger option on it, you know, like, that was sort of the way it came across. And it occurred to me that men, we tend to do that. We tend to look at what are the features and benefits of this acquisition. Like, how does this help me out here? Like, let me describe this thing to you so that you understand how valuable it is, so that you can get a sense of just exactly what I'm talking about. And I think that when we're dating, Debu, no, you're not going up there. Come here. When we're dating, I think that we look at women in some of the same ways. Now, I want to get into objectifying, because I don't think that's what it is. I don't think it's objectification of women. There are some elements of that to it, you know, if you look at it from a certain perspective, but I don't think that's truly what it is. Is that when we are evaluating a woman, because we are probably emotionally, I want to say the word retarded, because that has all kinds of negative connotations to it, but we're definitely not the head of the class when it comes to matters of the heart. We are trying to use some criteria to determine who it is that we're going to allow into our life. And so we have a checklist in our head, and a lot of those checklist items have to do with superficial things. Now, I'm not saying his entire relationship with this woman was based on superficial issues. I don't think that's the case at all. But I do think that they played a significant role in letting the relationship evolve to the place that it did. Because having done this myself, I kind of know it's hard to talk yourself out of a relationship. It's really, it's like that whole rose-colored glasses thing. But when you're really with a beautiful girl who checks a lot of your boxes physically, and you get along well, you know, you have great times when you're out, well, it's really easy to convince yourself that you have found the right one. It's really easy for you to fall into that trap of thinking, yeah, she's got everything I need. When, just like those fighters that walked into the match with Royce Gracie, like, you don't know what you don't know. Like, you're getting into a situation where there's a lot of unknowns. And she is a perfect example of the Royce Gracie metaphor, because you don't know what you're getting yourself into. She's been practicing this martial art since she was born. And you're going in there thinking this is going to be a boxing match, and she's going to pin your ass. And she's going to put some pressure on some points that you're not going to be too comfortable with. She's going to find your vulnerabilities, and she's going to exploit them. And next thing you know, you're going to be the one on the mat trying to tap out. So my guy from the other night, he's telling me about the relationship, and he comes to terms with the fact that he was probably a bit of an asshole through a lot of the relationship. He was distant. I would call him, like the avoidant relationship guy. He felt like he had bought her a nice house, got her a nice car, had some nice kids. Kids are all in private schools. Like, he's given her everything that she could possibly want, and yet she still wants more. Now, she's probably the needy relationship type. She's the kind of person that really needs to have that reassurance all the time. And he told me that she had some trauma in her past. So, obviously having a lot of emotional reassurance was really important to her. And that was something that he could not and did not provide. It was just against his framework. Like, his brain just didn't work that way. He was tied up with his job. He's traveling all over the world. He's being a protector and a provider. But he doesn't realize that he didn't know her well enough when they got married to understand that her attachment style, this neediness that she has, is central to who she is as a person. And he kept pushing her off and pushing her off and pushing her off for years and years. Well, about 6 months ago, she called him up and said, "I've had it. I'm out. I'm done. I don't want to deal with this anymore. I need to move on." And that's when the trigger went off in his head, and he was like, shit, this is not what I was looking for. This is not what I was expecting. I always thought I would have an option. I would have the ability to go back and fix this. I always thought that I would have the opportunity to make this right. But now that she was withdrawing from the relationship, he found himself in the position of being the needy one. He was the one that was wanting her to engage with him, and he was trying to think of any way to do it. He told me about calling her all the time from all over the world and texting her day and night, and she's just blowing him off. I mean, just blowing him off. And the anxiety that it created within him was palpable. I could tell this guy was really feeling the sense of being at a crossroads in his life and not being in control, probably for the first time in a long time, where he didn't know what was going to come next. But the other part of this that I think that affects a lot of men is that there are children in this relationship as well. There are, I think he had a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old. When we meet that woman, we think that we have met the love of our life. But the truth of the matter is, she's just going to introduce you to the love of your life. She's going to introduce you to those children that you guys bring into the world, because you will soon discover the love that you have for those children is completely different and much more meaningful to you than the love that you have with your wife. The love that you have with your wife does have a transactional nature to it. The love that you have with your children has an unconditional nature to it. And that is your vulnerability. That is the pressure point. That is the place where most men find themselves trapped, and they become the simp in order to keep this thing going, because they don't want to lose that relationship. The mistake that he made was being distracted by the complaints and the desires and the needs that his wife had, and not understanding the importance of the relationship he had with the children. And once she withdrew her love for him, when she said, "This is the end of our marriage, I want a divorce, and we're going to end this relationship," not only was he losing her as an option, which I think he thought he would always have, but now the relationship he has with his kids are in jeopardy. Suddenly, the prospect of him not having that relationship anymore, or those relationships anymore, becomes real. And the fear and the sense of darkness that he's looking into on one of these paths that lies before him, there's the possibility that he will have a life without them in it, or without him playing a significant role in it. And that is terrifying. That is the prospect that most men cannot and will not allow. And I understand that. I have been down that path. I know that sense of darkness, that emptiness that you feel inside when you think that you're losing your children because of a relationship that went bad. And you think, wow, I did not realize that this relationship and that relationship were so integral to who I am as a man, that the loss of one and then the loss of the other turns into this complete devastation. And it crushes you. It crushes you completely. So you don't just give up your masculine frame one day. You don't just become a simp. No, it's something that you're put into a place where it's untenable. You have no other option. You're doing everything in your power to keep this relationship alive so that you can maintain your connection with those kids. So I want to read to you guys an email that I received from a client that approaches this subject from a little bit of a different angle. He says, "Hi John, I enjoy your videos, even if I find it difficult how you generalize about men and women. Still, I can't deny you describe much of my former marriage accurately. Constant criticism from dawn to dusk, anger, controlling behavior, I experienced it all. I was devastated when she left me because in my world, I loved her. But for years, she did tell me I wasn't good enough. So it wasn't a full surprise. I hated myself. Because of years of criticism, I hadn't moved on her complaints. They just felt like signals of me being worthless, not as complaints I could work on. When she left, I felt she was right because I sucked. Here's the thing. You always mention men want sex and don't get it in a marriage. With us, she complained about lack of sex. Our bedroom was dead since we had a child, and she blamed me. Indeed, I did not initiate, so she was right. The reason he didn't initiate, obviously, was because she had beaten him down. She had taken from him his self-esteem. And it's very hard in a relationship where you truly love someone and you're getting this constant criticism and this constant abuse emotionally to try to correct it, to try to make it right, to try to make it seem like she was wrong, to be what she wants you to be. And this is a person, this woman, probably has a personality disorder. She's probably got some very serious mental health issues. He, being stuck in that relationship, found himself in the role of being a bit of a simp because she had manipulated him using his own love for her as a pressure point to manipulate him to perform in the way that she wanted, to put him in his place, to control him. He goes on to talk about their divorce and custody and all that stuff. And he does seem like now he's got his life together and he's moved on from that relationship and he's witnessing her destroying other men's lives. But it's another way that we men find ourselves in positions of being a simp, and it is a result not of our weakness, but more of coming from a position of strength. Because I think that when you're in a loving place and you are truly authentically loving another person, whether it's your children or your wife or both or that whole thing, it's not a weakness to be in love. It's that you're vulnerable. That's the problem, is you make yourself vulnerable. And there's no way that you can be in a loving place without also having that vulnerability. And the problem is not, like I said with the last guy, what happened at the beginning or at the end of the relationship. It's what happened at the beginning. It's not getting to know the woman well enough before we endeavor into the depth of this kind of relationship. The mistakes that we make as men are almost predictable. You meet someone that you find attractive, you seduce them. You know, we're zeroed in on building this relationship as quickly as possible. We're not stopping and asking questions. It's like we're going to the destination we have in our head. We're on a mission now, you know, so inevitably it becomes intimate, probably way too soon in the relationship. And now you've got all these hormones and neurotransmitters working against you. And that sensation of I love her, I love you comes into your head. Next thing you know, the scale of this relationship has changed completely. And the parameters have changed. Because once you start saying I love you, now it opens up that you're willing to accept so much more. You're willing to take so much more. Because it's love, it's like anything can be justified. Like you can absorb any kind of pain in the name of love. And that's where we are fooling ourselves. So it's not that in the course of the relationship do we allow ourselves to become simps and lose respect for ourselves. It's that we don't do a good job vetting these relationships at the beginning. We don't have clarity about what it is we really, really want in a relationship. And so when a woman, especially a beautiful woman, comes into our lives, it's easy for us to lose track of what's really important because we're overwhelmed with the fact that she's beautiful and she's interested in us. And we allow ourselves to fall into this trap of falling in love and believing that anything's possible, that we can handle anything, that we will have this superpower, this strength to push through no matter what. And when you're in love, especially in the beginning, you have that sensation, all those neurotransmitters and all those hormones. It's like a superpower. I mean, you really do feel like you've just got everything going for you and you can handle it all. And so you overlook a lot of bad stuff. You keep driving that train right off a cliff, you know, and you don't realize that you've driven off the cliff until it all starts to die down a little bit, until the reality of the fact that here you are living with this woman and it's very clear that what you believed about her was not necessarily so, that she is not all that. She is not worthy of your love. But oftentimes by then, children are a part of that scenario. And it's very, very, very hard to withdraw from that situation once the children are in it. The second guy, he also had a child. I think I mentioned it. And that was a big part of his criteria for staying in this marriage, to insulate his child from this crazy woman that he had married, that was now this child's mother. So it gets very, very complex. Once you're into a marriage, once you're into a relationship with a woman, once you've declared your love, once you've given your commitment, so it becomes incumbent upon you to do what those UFC fighters should have done long before they got into the ring with Royce. They should have done some research. They should have gotten to know what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is all about. They should have prepared themselves, because they walked in there not knowing shit. And here this scrawny little guy wearing a gi embarrassed them, humiliated them on the world stage. This 250-pound guy, all steroided out. I think about his name was Ken Shamrock. Ken Shamrock was the final competitor. That was the final match. And it was a brutal match, but Royce beat him. Ken was a brute of a man, huge muscles, physically a specimen. I mean, no body fat. The guy was just, he had been in every martial art kind of competition you can imagine. The guy was just a class A badass. And Royce, in comparison, just looked like some skinny kid, like some skinny brown kid. Like, what the hell is he even doing here in a match with this guy? This guy's gonna rip him from limb to limb. Yeah, that's not the way it went. It's not the way it went. And as men, we're like Ken Shamrock, getting into that ring, all roided up, ready to kick some ass. We're ready. We're ready for this fight. We're ready to do it. We're gonna throw down. Yeah. And this woman's gonna put you on your knees, man. She'll put you on your knees. So you better do some research before you get into this ring, because it's a very, very competitive place. And unless you know what you're getting into, like you don't know who and what you're dealing with well, then you're gonna get into trouble. I would start by no sex for 90 days. When you meet someone that you think that might be the one, you just tell her right up front, yeah, I think you're special, and I don't wanna cloud my mind with sex. I want to have fun with you, but we're not going to have sex for 90 days. You know, just be very clear about it, because as soon as that sex starts flowing, man, all that oxytocin and dopamine and all those other good drugs start flowing around in your brain, and you become vulnerable. All right, you guys, that's all I got for you today. I certainly hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please like and subscribe. getting close to 100,000 subscribers. I know it doesn't mean anything to you guys, but I've been busting my ass for last year. I think I have put up almost 300 videos, long form videos in the last 12 months. That's a lot of fucking videos. I have enjoyed it. I have enjoyed it. I'm not taking anything away from it. It has been a blast. And in fact, as of September 15th, it will have been 1 year since I became monetized on the YouTube Partner Program. And on that day back then, I think I had like maybe 3,000 or 4,000 subscribers. And then as of today, I think I got about 93,000 subscribers. So it's been quite a ride. It's been quite a ride. And I want to thank all of you guys for your support. This experience as being in this YouTube channel has taken me places that I never thought I would go. It's helped me understand and see the world from your perspectives, and to kind of build a brotherhood with a lot of you guys that I truly appreciate. And it has made me a better man, and I think a better advisor to you, a better YouTuber, better father, even a better ex-husband to some degree. Anyway, just want to thank you for your support. So, till next time, stay healthy, and if you can, stay single.